What if I told you that just tweeting out your podcast episodes isn't going to help your podcast grow? Now, you've probably already figured that out, right? If you're anything like me, you learned early on if you tweet it, they won't come. But that doesn't mean there aren't ways that you can grow your podcast. And in this video, I'm going to tell you the 5 things that you can do to grow your show and make it shareable so that more people start listening, so that you get more downloads, so that you can make money either through sponsorships or affiliate links, membership, or selling your own product. Hey everybody, my name's Joe Casabona of Podcast Liftoff, and on this channel, I teach you how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast so you can turn your show from a hobby into a business. Now, let's jump into the video, but first, I want to tell you that I'm going to give you 5 great tips today. If you want to double that and get 10 great tips today, head on over to podcastliftoff.com/workshop to get a free 20-minute workshop I did on 5 different things that you can do to grow your podcast. It's totally free when you sign up for my mailing list. The other thing I need to ask you to do is to subscribe to this channel because I put out videos weekly and they all revolve around growing and monetizing your podcast. Okay, let's jump into it. Number 1, get a decent microphone. I'm not saying you need the Shure SM7B. I'm not saying that you need a $200 microphone, though if you click the link in the card here, you will get to see me review a pretty good $200 microphone. I'm saying you need something better than the built-in microphone. I was listening to a podcast where the host is a millionaire, and the guest they had on was a millionaire, and they were either using AirPods or the built-in microphone, and they sounded like trash. Now, gear, I think, is one of the lowest priorities for investments, but that doesn't mean use the built-in microphone. It means use a halfway decent microphone. People will trust you more if you sound good. The microphone I'm using for this video isn't even my podcast microphone. I'm using a boom microphone for this. I have a different microphone, but this one is good. Obviously, it's good enough. I'm using it for this channel. But if you're really serious about your podcast, spend $50 and get a halfway decent microphone that is not going to make you sound echoey. That's not going to keep your volume low. That's going to allow people to trust you a little better because they're not working so hard to hear or understand you. They're actually listening to what you're saying. So that is number 1. Number 2, the format of your podcast. You need to think about this and put some effort into it. Don't just record and release because that doesn't cut it anymore. 10 years ago, it totally worked, right? The tools and the equipment weren't available. So if you managed to get a podcast out that had decent content, people listened. But now, listeners' expectations are higher. They don't just want you to get on a Zoom call, record it, and release it as is. That's not how you grow your podcast. So think about the segments and how you want your show to flow. Edit it a little bit. Clean up the audio, combine things, cut things that don't work for the narrative of the show. And as kind of a bonus, like a side quest for this, your podcast doesn't need to be an interview show. It could just be you on the microphone talking for 15 minutes. And as long as it's actionable advice, people will love that. I have an episode of my podcast, Make Money Podcasting, which you can find at makemoneypod.com or in the description below, where I talk about defining your mission statement and how that leads to making money podcasting. But thinking about your format is usually driven by that. So, Make Money Podcasting, that is a solo show, just me. I'm giving you everything I know about making money. My podcast, How I Built It, the mission of that show is free coaching calls from some of the best creators. Obviously, that needs to be an interview show. It can't just be me every week doing coaching calls. I do live coaching calls, but usually I'm the one getting coached on that show. And even then, I think about what's the mission of the show? How is it going to flow? Where should we cut things out? And then I send it to my editor for cleanup. So if you want your show to grow, don't just record a Zoom call and release it as is. Use a tool like Riverside.fm to get the best audio quality possible, combine them, and show people you put at least a little bit of effort into the podcast. So you're telling them that their time to listen is worthwhile. Number 3, do a little bit of research. If you do have guests, don't ask them what they do. I used to ask all the time, tell us, who are you and what do you do? That's not their job to say that. It's my job to set them up so we can dive right into the meat of the interview. And it didn't dawn on me until I got like a 2-star review on the show about that. And then I heard other people giving that advice. And then I read in Andrew Warner's book why we shouldn't do that. Do a little bit of research on your guest so that you know the questions you want to ask them. You can, again, control that flow and that narrative. And you're not just repeating information that people can read from the guest's bio. So then I'll record an intro after the fact, and I'll put it at the beginning. Dickie Bush is an investment banker turned writer. Now he runs Ship 30 for 30. In this episode, he's going to teach you how to be a better writer. That's all people really need to know about his background. Anything else that's relevant will come out during the interview process. Now, if you're not doing interviews, you should still do some research. Take some notes on the thing you're talking about. Get other perspectives so that you're not just coming to the microphone guessing or thinking or wondering, or I'm pretty sure that's right. Because I've been there too, and that's not a comfortable place to be in. You either need to release it like that and sound kind of dumb, or you need to stop recording and redo that episode. I'm in the habit of doing scripts for my podcasts now. So I do that research. When I read through, I double check and fact check a little bit. I don't do deep. I'm not like CGP Grey when it comes to the research I'm doing, but I want to make sure the things I'm saying are right and are up to date. So do a little research, just a little bit. It goes a long way. Number 4, make it easy to share. There are 3 ways you can do that. Have the subscribe buttons on the episode page. Have the share buttons on the episode page. And oh yeah, have an episode page where you have show notes, links, the buttons I just mentioned, and make it easy to speak. If you want to go to that mission statement episode, you go to makemoneypod.com/006. Easy for me to say, easy for me to type, easy for me to spit out at the end of the podcast episode. That makes it easy to share no matter what people use, because I'll tell you what, just sharing out the Apple Podcast link, that's holding your podcast back. Because anywhere from 30 to 45%, depending on the podcast host or the stat you're getting, 30 to 45% of listeners use Apple Podcasts. So let's take the higher number. You're excluding more than half of your potential listeners by just sharing the Apple Podcast link. If you have an easy to speak URL with the share buttons, now you make it easy for anybody to tweet, put it on Instagram, whatever. And then you can also put it in your newsletter, in your bio, right? Link in the bio. check out the latest episode. No one's going to click an Apple. Well, very few people are going to click an Apple Podcast link. More people will click to a website where then they can use the app of choice, their app of choice. So make it easy to share. Number 5, I want to talk about social media because this is something I did wrong for a long time. I would just share the episode. Hey, in today's episode, I talked to Sam Munoz about how she monetizes her podcast. Hey, in this episode, I talked to my friend Justin Fairman about building LearnDash. Great. That doesn't tell people anything new. There's no engagement on those posts. No one cares. You know what I started doing, though? Lately, I've started turning those into Twitter threads. I'm already writing out the summary. I'm already writing out the top takeaways from each episode. Why not take those and turn them into a Twitter thread? Maybe convert them into images and post them as a carousel on Instagram. Now, I'm giving people the information, the top information from the episode without them having to leave whatever platform they're on, which the algorithms like, but they like as well. What if they don't want to skim through an hour-long episode to figure out how to be a better writer or how to write better Twitter threads? Now they read the top takeaways and they either go, oh, yes, I can learn from this. I'm going to click through. Or I know somebody who can learn from this. I'm going to share it to my timeline. I'm going to re-Instagram it on my Instagram story, whatever people do there. Repost is probably what it is. But they're not just looking at it going, oh, this is a promo for a podcast and scrolling past it. They're reading and they're engaging. So when you share your show on social media, do that. Tell them what they're going to learn. Exactly what they're going to learn. Don't say you're going to learn this. Say, in this episode, these are the 3 bullet points that you take away, that you get from listening. And if you want more context around that, then click through and listen. But now I'm telling you up front, it's a good episode. It's the test drive before people buy the car. So there you go. 5 ways that you can grow your podcast. Get a decent microphone. Think about the format. Do some research. Make it easy to share. And add more value on social media. Like I said, if you want to get 5 more tips, head over to podcastliftoff.com/workshop to get instant access to a free workshop I did by joining my mailing list. You'll get the video immediately, and then you'll get tips every Tuesday, Thursday to grow and monetize. You'll also get a little email course adding more context to the workshop. So if you're really interested, definitely check that out. And of course, subscribe to this channel because I put out videos just about weekly on how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast so that you can turn your show from a hobby into a business. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Joe Casabona, and until next time, I can't wait to see what you make.